Good morning, my loves. I have no idea what we're going to talk about today, but I am showing up because I promised myself and I promised all of you I would be here, and so I am here. And I think what I would really like to share, because this was the first thing that popped up when I woke up this morning, is I have a really dear friend. We talk about being cauldron sisters, which is a Karen Waldron thing, who wrote the Lightmaker's Manifesto or the Lightworker's Manifesto, which you may want to double check me on that because it is Vata season and I have a lot of Vata, so I could be getting that all wrong, but I think that that's right. Anyway, she has this concept of cauldron sisters where souls are made in batches, and the people who are in batches have similar qualities and they live parallel lives. And so I have this beautiful cauldron soul sister named Sheena, who I worked with when I worked in healthcare. She was one of my first medical assistants who I worked with pretty regularly. And the two of us just bonded because we were both going through these big transitions, and she was in this really hard place in her life, and she could be really vulnerable with me, and we have been super tight ever since. And she ended up going on to be a massage therapist, and I am someone who loves supporting my people, and I love supporting small businesses because I feel like they're really good for everybody. And so I've been going to her for periodic massages for a long time because I am very aware of how my stress and my feelings and my past trauma, as I do my inner work, releasing that trauma, how it also needs to be released from my tissues. And so since I have been in a state of pretty perpetually doing some deep inner work and excavation, I've been trying to be really on top of taking care of my body. And that means doing lots of yoga, because yoga can help create space in your body and release stored emotions, and also doing massage, which is therapeutic in a lot of ways. If you are somebody who has ever been physically harmed, being touched in a really gentle, loving way in a very safe container can be really healing. And so we also know that just the sensation of touch, even when we're stroking our own skin, helps release happy connection chemicals in our brains. And these are ways we could show up for ourselves. And not everybody can afford to go for a massage in this present moment. But yeah, I just have this belief that when I am investing money into other people or into causes that are important, that money finds its way back to me. And I deeply believe that, and that has been the case for me. And right, that's how manifesting works, right? You deeply believe something, you believe you're worthy of it, you trust source to deliver, and then it happens. And if you're not there yet and feeling like that's possible, then yeah, that's okay. It takes a lot of work, especially getting to the point of feeling worthy of these things happening. So anyway, I had an appointment with Sheena yesterday for a deep tissue massage, and it turns out that she recently did training in myofascial release, which is something that I have had before from my chiropractor in a targeted area when I have had injuries, and it's like magic, right? It can really loosen things up and improve your mobility and function. And so usually, right, I'll check whatever box, but I trust Sheena, and Sheena knows to just do whatever she thinks needs to be done because she is a very intuitive person, and she doesn't just have a good sense of what's going on in somebody's tissues. She also is really good at reading people's fields and communicating with their guides. And so I went to Sheena thinking I was going to get a deep tissue massage, which is actually still a pretty relaxing experience for me because I have a lot of tolerance for pain and massage. And what I got instead was myofascial release, which was really interesting to witness, because when she first started, she started on my back, and my back, right, my body and my mind immediately went into resistance, and we're like, oh no, not this, right? This is not what we signed up for. We actually need relaxation. Maybe we should speak up and say that we would just like the release, like the relaxing, not deep myofascial release. So just getting to a witnessing state that this is what's going on in my mind and this is what's going on in my body, and just making the decision, right? We're going to breathe into this like we do in yoga, because we are used to this discomfort, right? We are at the edge, right? This idea in yoga that you find your edge of what is uncomfortable that you can handle without really leaning into discomfort and without harming yourself, because we don't practice self-harm in yoga. And just being able to get into a place of surrender, which, right, it made me think of yoga, because that is my yoga practice, right? It's breathing into the sensation, focusing the breath to create space, to release the tension. And it's all about releasing resistance and surrender. And so here I was in this beautiful practice of releasing and surrendering and breathing to create space. And it felt like doing yoga without actually having to do anything other than lay on a table and breathe and tolerate the discomfort, which I have a lot of practice with, right? Because even before I was really devoted to yoga, I was doing endurance sports. So lots of experience with finding my edge and sometimes stepping over, but I am getting better about that now that I'm on the yogic path rather than the endurance sports path. So just having this beautiful conversation with her, feeling her really sovereign in the space, like being in this, right? Neither of us said a word, and we both have a lot of air, and we both have a lot of fire, and we are both chatterboxes. And when we get together, we are like little kid joy, and it's just like the words and the enthusiasm spill out. And so the fact that we could both be in silence and still be very connected, and to just witness her in the zone and doing this work and stepping into her power and being, right, a facilitator of healing, because that is what myofascial release does. It's this role of being a facilitator to help somebody bring about their own self-healing. And it's beautiful, because that is my role as a coach right now, right? It is providing the tools and being the facilitator so that my clients can bring about their own self-healing. Like, what is more empowering than that? Like, what a beautiful field to be in. Like, what a juicy, delicious thing for a light worker to bring into the world. And so, it was this really beautiful experience, and this practice of surrender over and over and over again as she traveled from one area of my body to another, and just finding these really tight, triggering, painful spots. This is sounding like inner work, right? And just breathing into it, creating space, feeling into it, not fighting it, releasing the resistance and the surrendering to what is. And so, I think I wanted to share, because that is what we do in our inner alignment, and that is what we do with our inner work. And even if you're not doing inner alignment, just in terms of being on the spiritual path, right? We come up against a trigger and it feels awful and it is painful and it's uncomfortable, and the immediate response is to tense up and resist. And when we can bring awareness and we can release that resistance and just surrender, the pain goes away. It releases. And it's actually our resistance that is creating the problem, right? It's our fear, because that's where the resistance comes from. It's our fear that is creating the pain. And when we just let whatever the situation is be, and feel it and breathe into it and let it go, then we're left with just what is, and the space and the awareness and the lesson. And it's like, oh, well, I was holding on to a lot, right? And the really beautiful thing is, like, long after that session, I was still feeling things release in my body, which is not my experience after a typical massage. And there are often massages that I'll leave from and I'm still tense because there's only so much even the most talented massage therapists can do in 60 or 90 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever interval. And that was not the case this time. Like, I still feel loose. Like, that is like the most beautiful experience I've been through in a really long time, and probably on par with the most beautiful physical experience I've had. Like, it's right up there with the best yoga sessions I've been to. And so, of course, being the airy and the fiery person I was, I came home and air, right, and pulse, right? Something feels good, so I'm gonna jump in and do it. And then the fire of, if some is good, more is better, like, booked another session for next month. And then I also talked to my husband about it, because my husband, I think I've brought up here, is suffering with chronic Lyme, and that is a lot to carry in the body, and the Lyme causes pain, because it's affected his nervous system. That is where he initially manifested. He had Lyme encephalopathy, and I work in healthcare, and I did not previously know that Lyme could cause encephalopathy. And so, yeah, just encouraging him to maybe try it, and he was really open to it. And being the super earthy person he is, like, his name is Adam, even his name means dirt. Like, he is the most warm, cozy, cuddly, loving, selfless bear that there is, and I love him so much. And also, his shadow is that it's really hard for him to do self-care, and to show up for himself. And so I would say that my fire sometimes nudges him in that direction. And also, bears respond really well. So if you're somebody who has a whole lot of earth and inertia is hard for you, bears respond really well to the buddy system, because the most important thing to them is their people and their people connections. And, like, that is beautiful. Like, earth people are, I think, my favorite people, because they have the things I lack, which is being really safe and grounded and warm and caring. And that just comes really naturally to them, that they're like this safe, anchored place to land. And being someone who tends to have mostly air, what I do not have is anchoring. I am like the floaty, free. And, like, even before I understood Ayurveda, I used to say that I was like those airplanes that they used to have that you would hang from a string on your ceiling. And I don't think they sell them anymore, because I'm sure they're a safety hazard. But he was the anchor point for the string, and I'm like spinning, and he's the anchor. And so, yeah, we balanced each other out. But I asked him, and he said he was potentially interested. And I was like, well, because this is me in my work in every capacity. Like, what's the barrier? Like, what is holding you back from wanting to do it? Like, wanting to hear, like, is it, I don't feel comfortable going to a female massage therapist. I don't feel comfortable undressing. I don't feel uncomfortable being touched, because those are all reasons that I would back off. But what he actually said was, I don't feel comfortable spending money on myself. And I was like, oh, awesome. I will book you the appointment and I will pay for it. And, like, problem solved. And then the next appointment that was available was like the week before his birthday. So I was like, well, there, now you don't even need to feel bad that I paid for it, because it's the week before your birthday. Happy birthday. Like, that will be your gift. And so, yeah, I think for me, the whole experience was this reminder of, like, the lesson about resistance and the pain we cause ourselves when we try to resist what is, and how much easier and more beautiful it is to just surrender to whatever the what is of the moment is, whether that's in yoga, whether that's in a painful myofascial release session, or in your everyday life. And so maybe today the practice is noticing when you're having a little resistance, noticing when your shoulders are getting tight and migrating towards your ears, or noticing when your jaw is clenched, and just taking a moment to breathe into those spaces and like take a deep breath and visualize sending that air and sending some love to those spaces, and right, like just doing those little things to show up and be like, oh, I feel you, body, like I feel you, inner child self, and I'm gonna show up for you in this moment, because a lot of those things do come from our little inner child being scared, right? Like this idea that our ego is a toddler brain, right? It's like got the impulse control of a 3-year-old and about as much insight about life, and everything is scary and all it wants is to protect us. And it's right, like not judging it, just being like, oh hey, I see you're scared, this is scary, but you don't, right, like you don't need to protect us, like we've got this. The adult self is here, and I've got this. So wishing you all an amazing day. I hope you found something useful today, and I trust that if you got here that there was a little nugget in there for you. And if the only thing you got out of this was feeling really loved and seen and valued, then that is enough. And wherever you are on your path today is enough. And if you have questions, or if you are feeling called to connect, then feel free to message or email me. And I will see you all again tomorrow. Love you.